There is an ancient story that uniquely connects Israel, Africa, Judaism, and Christianity. It's the story of the meeting of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, who the Ethiopians call Makeda, and it happened some 3,000 years ago. It's recorded in the Tanakh or Old Testament book of 1 Kings and the Ethiopian Kebra Negast, and referenced in the New Testament books of Luke and Matthew. There is much debate about the identity of the Queen of Sheba. There are competing Talmudic, Islamic, Coptic Christian, Yoruba, medieval, and Renaissance versions of this queen, her real name, the region from which she came, and much more. The most extensive and detailed accounts are in the Jewish prophets and the Kebra Negast. The Jewish historian Flavius Josephus called Makeda the Queen of Egypt and Ethiopia. Interestingly, Solomon's father, King David, predicted a royal visit from Egypt and Ethiopia in Psalm 68, verse 31. Princes shall come out of Egypt, Ethiopia shall soon stretch out her hands or bring the gift unto God. This is how the story of Solomon and Makeda begins in 1 Kings chapter 10. And when the Queen of Sheba heard of the fame of Solomon concerning the name of the Lord, she came to prove him with hard questions. And she came to Jerusalem with a very great train, with camels that bear spices, and very much gold and precious stones. And when she was come to Solomon, she communed with him of all that was in her heart. 1 Kings reveals that Makeda was the queen of an abundantly wealthy African province. We learn that she brought 120 talents, 4 tons of gold, precious stones, and so many spices that the amount was never matched. This visit was not one in which Africa was in need. This was a diplomatic visit between two very wealthy, powerful kingdoms. In the biblical narrative, we also learn that Makeda visits Solomon in Jerusalem, the eternal, undivided capital of Israel. At IBSI, we call this visit between Solomon and Makeda the first ever Africa-Israel summit. Abba Gebre Selassie Tesfa, leader of the Kanande Moret Ethiopian Orthodox Church in Jerusalem, gave IBSI founder Dumasani Washington a fascinating insight. According to Abba Gebre Selassie, Ethiopian tradition also explains that Solomon gave Makeda a large piece of land for her huge entourage of soldiers, equipment, camels, gold, and spices, and that the land was the first ever given by Israel to a foreign government. Further, it is said that the Ethiopian church in the old city of Jerusalem sits on the location of that land. The story continues, and Solomon answered all her questions. There was nothing hidden from the king that he could not explain to her. And when the Queen of Sheba had seen all the wisdom of Solomon, the house that he had built, the food of his table, the seating of his officials, and the attendance of his servants, their clothing, his cupbearers, and his burnt offerings that he offered at the house of the Lord, there was no more breath in her. It is at this point of the biblical story that Makeda's deepest thoughts are revealed. They are found in her words to the king. It was a true report that I heard in my own land of thy acts and of thy wisdom. Howbeit, I believed not the words until I came and my eyes had seen it. And behold, the half was not told me. Thy wisdom and prosperity exceeded the fame which I heard. Happy are thy men, happy are these thy servants, which stand continually before thee, and hear thy wisdom. Blessed be the Lord thy God, which delighteth in thee, to set thee on the throne of Israel, because the Lord loved Israel forever. Therefore made he thee king to do judgment and justice. 1 Kings tells us that what the queen witnessed in Israel, especially Solomon's wisdom, led her to the conclusion that God loved Israel forever. There is no other visit to Jerusalem or declaration about God's relationship with the Jewish people from a foreign ruler in all of the Bible. In the New Testament book of Matthew chapter 12, verse 42, Jesus also refers to this historic visit. The queen of the south shall rise up in judgment with this generation and shall condemn it. For she came from the uttermost parts of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon, and behold, a greater than Solomon is here. The Kebra Negast explains that Solomon and Makeda had a romantic relationship that produced a son named Melanick. The tradition goes on to say that after seeing his father Solomon decline into idol worship, Melanick took the Ark of the Covenant into Ethiopia for safekeeping. Some believe the Ark remains in Ethiopia, guarded by Orthodox Christian priests. It is also said that Ethiopia's last emperor, Haile Selassie, is a direct descendant of King Solomon and Queen Makeda. Today, there are some 170,000 Ethiopian Jews living in Israel. They are first and second generation immigrants who were airlifted to the Jewish homeland by the Israeli government beginning in the 1980s. In his 2019 academic article, Zionism and Pan-Africanism, A Common Journey to Recapture Ethnic Self-Realization, Professor Ansel Brown states, the Ethiopian Jewish community numbers over 250,000, 135,000 in Israel and over 150,000 outside of Israel, mostly members of the Bet Abraham or the Kachin Jews who were forced to join the Ethiopian Orthodox Church under harsh persecution. Ethiopian Jews trace their origins to the son of Makeda, the Ethiopian Queen of Sheba, and Israel's King Solomon, Melanick, who established the ancient Assamite dynasties in Ethiopia. The last of the Solomonic Ethiopian kings was the heralded Pan-Africanist Emperor Haile Selassie. The Israel Chief Rabbinate has recognized the Ethiopian Jewish community to be the members of the exiled Israeli tribe of Dan that mingle with the local Africans and the Yemenite Jews in Ethiopia. Persecuted by their countrymen, Ethiopian Jews fulfill their generational longings to return to Jerusalem and have been largely absorbed as Israeli citizens. Israel's most ancient diplomatic relationship is with the African nation of Ethiopia, and that relationship officially began with the Queen of Sheba and King Solomon in the holy city of Jerusalem. The two nations remain friends to this day.